My name's Josh Burgess. I was born in Palmerston North on a lovely summer's day in January in 1990. That's where I spent most of my years up until I was about 17, 18. When I first moved here, I drove down with my girlfriend at the time and her parents, and I hadn't even enrolled in a class. I didn't even know what I was going to do. And I don't mean that in I was lost, I just hadn't even looked. I didn't even know what you could study at university, to be perfectly honest. I thought that you would come to university and you'd study science or law or something practical. It was quite refreshing to find things like the American Studies department that existed at the time and the Theatre and Film Studies department. And there were things I was genuinely interested in. I met some people in Auckland playing in bands who were from Christchurch. But beyond that, I really didn't know much about the city at all. This was my first job out of university, working for a company called Phantom. I used to have to put up these posters. You'd get a big bucket of lathery sort of soap and a brush, and you put it up and then you'd sort of... See, they've done this one well. This is good coverage. You can't get the corners in. Not sure about that one. And I guess that's when I sort of realised that, look, I don't want to stay in Christchurch. I got to do something. London didn't seem that appealing because I knew too many people, and that kind of was the point. It wasn't like I want to go and reinvent myself and not be Josh Burgess anymore, but it was like I really did genuinely want to get thrown into the deep end and see what happens. We're going to pull up here into the second flat I ever had in Christchurch. Who do I give way to here? I can't remember. This is 69A Peveril Street. This was the second place I ever lived in Christchurch. Lived here with 7 people. It's not a big house at all, and there's only one bathroom. Used to play cricket along here. If you could hit Broadbent, it was $100. You could smash it onto there. I totally got immersed into the Christchurch music scene, which I think I probably saw the tail end of a really golden period, but there were bands like the Shocking Pinks, Tiger Tones, Bang Bang Etch. There were really good venues to play in Christchurch. I think that's one of the things that I really liked about being in a band here. You could play in more than one place and they had very distinct, different aesthetics in the room and almost like a different crowd, you know? So behind us is the Ducks Deluxe. When I first moved here, I would come here a lot to see shows because the shows were always free. Always really good bands. I don't know, it's just nice to be part of a scene, I think. I really loved the way it revolved around sort of partying. Shows weren't this exhibition. They were a part of a good night out, which I think was Christchurch was the first time that I sort of experienced that. And experienced music is a very social thing to be doing. I feel like a place feels like home for 2 reasons. Obviously, you're driving around and I still look at this McDonald's every day and this Pack and Save every day. But also, it's a lot to do with the people that are here, and I feel like a lot of people I know have moved out, so it's sort of like it's a weird sensation because there's all the stuff I recognise, but the memories that I have are with people that aren't here anymore, and I sort of feel a bit distant from that time. We're sitting in Littleton, at a cafe called Samo, which is where I used to end one of my Phantom runs when I was driving around in the van putting up posters. Really great coffee. I moved to New York in August of 2012, so about 2.5 years ago. Really with no plans, I didn't know anyone, and I think that was a very refreshing way to start somewhere. You really did feel like you were starting fresh. I think if you just tell people that you're doing something, there's this part of you that's just so mortified at the prospect that if you don't pull it off, that you'll live in shame for the rest of your life. So I just started telling people, yeah, I'm moving to New York in June. It's one of those places that you've got to keep moving. You've got to be like a shark. As soon as you stop, you lose oxygen and you lose the motivation. But the thing with New York is if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you do end up somewhere. Behind me is Goodbye Blue Monday, which was probably my favourite bar in Christchurch. Started around 2009, had a really good culture for live music. It was debaucherous, it was loud, the room sometimes sounded shit, sometimes sounded amazing, but I saw some great shows in there. Die on a Tuesday night, totally packed out. I think a lot of people cling on to the fact that home is where your family is, and for me, my father lives in Palmerston North, my mother lives in England, my sister in Scotland. I've
feel more at home in New York probably now. So I think the idea of home as a physical place is falsifying it. A city where you used to grow up and friends that you used to have, yeah, they're definitely important, but at the end of the day, it's you who's making that call. So for me, I really think home is somewhere where I feel comfortable and somewhere that I feel like people know me. I think that if you try to pretend like you're not just a kid from New Zealand living in New York, you're not going to have something unique to offer. And I love the fact that I'm a New Zealander. I'm just a kid from Palmerston North that lives in New York. If you grow up in a small place, you can appreciate a larger place a lot easier. I think it doesn't work so much the other way around. If you grew up in a very large metropolitan city, I think you'd struggle to appreciate somewhere like Palmerston North.